There is no passion to be found in playing small, in settling for a life that is less than you're capable of. Nelson Mandela.
Are you ready to make the most of the only life you have? To make smart money choices focused on achieving what you care about most? Here to help you balance living well today without sacrificing your tomorrow is the Retirement Answer Man, Roger Whitney.
Hey, I got some bad news for you. Market returns? They're not going to be good enough. Healthcare costs? Dude, they're going to eat your lunch. Interest rates are going to be too low. You know what? You're just going to live too long. Oh yeah, and you're not saving enough. Inflation is going to be too high. You know, let's face it. The future of retirement for you just isn't that bright. Recently, I did a Google search just for fun, because this is what a geeky guy like me does. I searched the term retirement crisis. In less than a nanosecond, Google came back with over 22 million results. So 22 articles that had that term, retirement crisis. Then, just for kicks, I Googled the term retirement dreams. In less than a nanosecond, Google came back with just over 700,000 results. Over 22 million for retirement crisis and about 700,000 for retirement dreams. No wonder so many clients that I deal with and so many of you listeners that I interact with struggle to think big about their life. As a result of this drumbeat from financial advice media and financial advice industry, we've come to believe that pursuing a greater life later in life is a little unrealistic. I think that the true retirement crisis is that we worry too much about the retirement crisis. So I want to address this head on today to start to build a framework for how you can live a better life as you grow older and thrive regardless of the kind of environment that we're going to get into. But before we do that, it's time for that all-important disclaimer. All right, here's the disclaimer. Don't take advice from me on the show. I am a practicing financial planner. I walk life with clients every day. I give them advice because I know enough about them to speak into their life. I don't know anything about, and you don't know that much about me. So think of this as helpful hints in education. And before you make any decisions, talk to your financial advisor, your legal advisor, or your tax advisor. Oh yeah, and listen to the really important disclaimer at the end of this show. Now, what's hot in the news right now? So in the news today, a friend of mine, Michael Hyatt, who is a New York Times best-selling author and the former CEO of Thomas Nelson Publishing, is getting ready to offer, I believe this is his third year in a row, registration to his 5 days to your best year ever. And what it is, it's a 5-day program that helps set you up for success in 2017. Now, last week in Six Shot Saturday, I shared an ebook that he put together. This week in Six Shot Saturday, I'm going to share a life assessment quiz you can take to grade yourself on how well this year went and how you're setting yourself up for a good 2017. And I think this dovetails very well into what we're going to talk about today, but also what we're talking about when we're trying to make intentional decisions about creating a great retirement. So I'll be straight up front. As part of this, I'm going to offer a link where you can have a pre-registration discount, register for his program, and I'm acting as an affiliate, so I'll receive a little bit of that portion of it. But I think the big picture here is I've done this program. I did it with my brother-in-law about a year ago, and he and I walked through it together and really saw amazing results about being intentional about creating a great year for ourselves. So what I thought I'd do this year, since it really worked well for myself and my brother-in-law, is offer it to you and make sure you're aware of it. And then my plan is to have some special conference calls just with us, people from the Retirement Answer Man community and myself, where we take this great program, 5 days to your best year ever, and customize it for what we're dealing with in this journey towards retirement, so we can make sure we set solid goals for 2017 that are focused on the finances and on the life aspect of taking a good step towards the life that you want. So this week, you're going to receive an assessment in the 6-Shot Saturday. Go ahead and take that. If you don't have an interest in this, I'll only be talking about it for one more week, but I think it's a great program that we can all walk together. And I think with the special bonus of me and you getting able to talk and customize it to what we're doing, it could really be powerful for 2017. So if we're going to get out of this retirement crisis mode, we're going to need to build a framework for how to think about the future of our lives from a financial perspective, but also from a qualitative perspective. So I want to make sure we hit both there. So I want to give you a framework for that. So number one is on the front end, in that initial conversation, whether it's with a planner or with you and your spouse or you on your own, it's dreaming up what an ideal life would be for you and your family. And doing this, the biggest obstacle to doing this, let me say this, the biggest obstacle to doing this is going to be you and the reasonableness that has been drummed into you through this mantra of retirement crisis, that you're just lucky if you're able to get to retire and not run out of money. That has really affected our thinking about our lives. And I've seen this in initial conversations with prospective clients or talking to you and fellow listeners about dreams and aspirations. A lot of times what happens is when we're in the dream stage, they're walking in the door already negotiating away almost all their life. They've already sacrificed themselves at the mantle of being reasonable in their expectations for what their retirement can provide. I think that's a result of this constant drumbeat of the crisis mentality we have when we think about retirement. It would be like going into a car dealership to negotiate a car and then just saying, okay, your first offer is I'll pay, $5,000 above MSRP. Who's going to do that? You've already negotiated away everything. So the first step is don't be reasonable at the beginning of the stage. If you've ever been involved in project management, one of the first steps is you get into a room and you whiteboard and you brainstorm all these crazy things that you want to have happen at the end of this project. That is the stage of setting goals and thinking about your life. We just want to whiteboard it. We want to just spitball, say whatever term you want, and get all the ideas up there. And then we can go through the process of figuring it out. But you don't want to be reasonable on the front end. So that's number one. Now, number two is on the front end, and I'll tell you, planners have as big an issue with this or bigger than you do, is we don't want to get down into the details about what it's going to cost. I know, that's scary, isn't it? We don't want to dream up a world tour and then before we move on, just start to build a spreadsheet over the next 30 years, factoring in inflation and all the other things, showing year by year what that's going to cost over time. We don't need to get down to that detail right now. Not in the dream stage. Just like think of the whiteboard and putting stickies up on it. You just want to get the ideas up there. Now we want to have an estimate for what those ideas are, but I'm going to tell you what you do. Just wag it. All right? So what is WAG? WAG is a wildly awesome guess. You have permission in the beginning stages of thinking of your life in retirement to just wag it. You have travel around the world every year for 30 years. Just put a WAG number up there. Make it somewhere in the ballpark, but don't worry about building the spreadsheets and figuring it all out right now. So that's number two. Number one is don't be reasonable. Number two is don't get caught in the details right now. Just wag a number, put it up there so we have a placeholder for it, and we'll get back to figuring out what's possible later on. Number three is when you're dreaming up this crazy life you want to live, it's not just about the money. Not just about the money, honey. It's not just about the money. We think of retirement planning as all about the numbers, and the numbers are super important. I spent 25 years focused on the numbers of it. And what I have found is, and what studies show is, yeah, the numbers are important, but there is a qualitative part of life that is literally just as important. My good friends Bill Watson and Robert Mallon, who founded this Rusty Lion Academy, call this the curse of sequential living. And that's the concept that we can only focus on one area of our life at a time. When we focus on money, what we tend to do is focus on, I'll build my career, then I'll be a great spouse. Or I'll work like crazy, then I'll take care of my body. I'll enjoy today, then take care of the future. The idea that we have to be sequential. We got to take care of the money thing first, and then we'll have time to take care of all the rest of the stuff. Well, the problem is it doesn't work that way. While you're taking care of the money part of it, you could literally blow up everything else in your life. And I've seen it happen firsthand, and it's not pretty. So when we're dreaming up this ideal life, set goals not just on the money part. We're going to get to there in a minute. Set goals on the qualitative part of life as well. So what are these touchy-feely qualitative things? Now, I've talked about a number of these before. Number one is health. How are you going to invest in your health and make sure that you are able to do the things that you're planning on doing? So health is going to be investing in your mind, in your body, and your spirit, so you are strong enough, your vehicle, your body is well enough to do the things that you actually have passion about doing. You got to invest in your health, not just later on. You got to do it right now. Number two, and we've talked about this before, invest in your relationships. The fact is, if you are, say, 60 years old, right now you have a 50-50 chance, according to studies, of living past the age 90. So you have a 50-50 chance of being over 90 years old onto 100 if you're 60 years old right now. Investing in your relationships is more crucial than ever before. In the olden days, when someone retired and their lifespan was maybe 6, 7, 8, 10 years, they could have a crappy relationship and just sort of ride it out. Well, now, if you retire at 60, 65, and you got a pretty good shot at getting over 90, having a bad relationship is not going to be as enjoyable. That's one reason why we see divorce rates in older Americans on the rise, is because they realize, this is too long for me to ride out. The more you invest in your relationships and be intentional about that, the better things are going to be, not just from a qualitative perspective, but dude, ma'am, think about if you get divorced later in life and half that money goes away. That's a big financial impact. And the last reason you want to be intentional about relationships is you don't want to be the last person standing. Because what will happen is, in my experience, when someone retires, that social circle of work starts to go away. When their kids get older and their grandkids get older and start to be busy in life, that social circle goes away. And then as friends move off or die off or move away, that social circle goes away. So the risk of being the last person standing gets higher and higher as you get older. So you're going to have to constantly renew that network of relationships. And I don't have to tell you, every study shows that's one of the biggest indicators of a happy life. And the last qualitative part of this dream big about your retirement is, what is your purpose going to be in life? Now, I've talked about this before, and I've gotten about having a purpose in life, whether that's work or volunteering or something else. And I've had a few listeners email me and say, Roger, I've been retired for 7 years and I don't do much, and I am totally happy. I am happy resting. That's a very valid point. So when I'm talking about a purpose in life, I'm not talking about you got to go off and start a charity or do consulting, go work at Starbucks. What I'm talking about is finding passions in life to occupy your time. That could be music. It could be reading. It could be crafting. It could be volunteering. It could be woodworking. It could be a number of other things outside of just making money. What will happen is, though, if you don't find something that you're naturally passionate about, I'll use my father-in-law as an example because he and I were talking today. Not all he does, he works as a marshal on a golf course, so he gets to boss people around. He loves to do that. And he is the go-to handyman for everybody in his neighborhood. He worked 30 plus years at General Motors, and he loves to fix things, and he loves helping people, so it works out well. So it doesn't have to be some major altruistic thing. The key is have a reason for getting up in the morning. And then the last little tip before we get into a little bit more of the money stuff is write in pencil. So this process of thinking about what the rest of your life is going to be like and dreaming big is an iterative process, meaning that you're going to do it over and over and over again because the things you care about are going to change over time. If you're writing on paper, use a pencil with a huge eraser. If you're doing a grease board, well, that's easy. You just smudge it out with your fingers. The point is that these are allowed to change. Figuring out what your retirement is going to be like isn't about getting it right. It's about starting a direction to a place that you want to go to, acknowledging that that destination may change as you and your priorities and your family changes. So use a big eraser. So let's get down to the money end of it. So once we have thought about these qualitative things, how do we start to get a handle on the spending side of it? It's scary. It's a large number when we add it all up, and building spreadsheets has to be done in forecasting. But in this stage, I still want to have you focus on the basics because this will set the stage for getting more reasonable and going through a prudent process later on. We don't want to jump there too quickly because then we can short circuit things that are really important to us. So how do we do this? So I think of it like a bowl of spaghetti. Now, spaghetti has a couple different elements, right? It's got the noodle, the pasta. I don't know if it's a noodle or pasta. I don't know what you call it. It's got the pasta, it's got the sauce, and then it's got the spices. A lot of times when we are trying to quantify what we're going to need for retirement, what we end up doing is coming up with one number. We just want to picture the bowl of spaghetti as we like it. We're mixing in the pasta, the sauce, and the spices, and it's just one big dish that we put a number on in order to determine how much we want to spend during retirement. A good example of that is this idea of, well, we'll just take 85% of what we're spending now or what our income is now, which I think is a really poor way of doing it. When we are starting to estimate what a big life means to us, we want to make sure we break down the other ingredients as much as we can. And there's a reason why that's important that I'll tell you here at the end. So let's do this. So step one is to determine what your basic lifestyle needs are. So that's the pasta, right? That's the base of the dish. You can't have spaghetti without the pasta. So this is your basic living expenses. Interestingly, even with people that are spreadsheet people, they don't have a great clue of what their basic living expenses are. So what should we include in that? We should include housing, utilities, healthcare, groceries, transportation, basic entertainment, clothing, insurance, and taxes. Those are the big ones. We want to come up with a number for the pasta. How much does the pasta cost? Is it $6,000 a month? Is it $20,000 a month? What is the cost of the pasta for your life? Those basic living expenses. This is what, hey, if all you had was pasta, it's going to be pretty bland, but you could live on it, right? You could still survive just eating pasta. So that's the number one. You want to get what your pasta or your basic living expenses amount to right now. So that's the base. The second thing you want to do is now we got to add some sauce, okay? Because we like sauce in our pasta. That's how you make spaghetti. We want to have some fun in our lives. So these are your wants. These are things that you actually want to have that's going to add some flavor to those basic living expenses. So what's going to be included in here? We got vacation homes, traveling, starting a business, starting a charity, learning a new skill, random acts of kindness, hitting the road in an RV, what it's going to cost to be part of a social club or a golf club or a tennis club, whether you're going to move to another state, expanding your current home, serving your church, traveling the world, running marathons, sailing the seas, whatever you can think of that brings flavor to your life. So let's take one. Let's just talk about traveling. Okay, well, we know we got our pasta number. We know that one major element of the sauce is going to be traveling. And that's a very common one that I hear from you all the time. So when we put that down on our list, now we want to make sure we have a number on traveling. Okay, I want to travel every single year. Then we have to figure out, okay, roughly how much will it cost for you to travel? I'm always amazed that for some people, I need 20 grand a year, 30 grand a year to travel. Other people, I need 4,000 a year, 2,000 a year. Everybody travels differently, right? Some camp, some go to the Ritz, some go to the state park, some go to the Ritz in Hong Kong and Canton and all these other places. Whatever your flavor is, get a number for it. Now, remember, just wag it. Don't get a hard number yet. Just wag it for right now. But for each one of the ingredients of your sauce, put a wag number on it so we can start to formulate what this great life would look like. Now, remember, we're doing this from the perspective of we're going to use it as a basis for negotiation later on. We'll be reasonable later on, but for right now, let's not shortchange ourselves. And then the third element of coming up with the initial financial cost of this great life that you're dreaming up is the spice rack. Okay, we got the pasta, what it costs to live. We have forecasted out all the costs of the ingredients of the sauce. Now we need to look at what dreams we have for our life, what different spices we really want to add to it to just zoom it up, and then put a WAG number on those as well. So what would be part of this spice rack of your retirement? That could be annual gifting to people you care about or to organizations, leaving an inheritance at the end of your life, starting a foundation, world travel, paying for college for your grandkids, paying off your children's mortgage, all sorts of those aspirational things that you can think of. This is after you've developed some pasta that you enjoy and you've created a sauce that you love. Those two elements alone would give you a very tasty life, but this is where you could really add some zing to it if you chose. And then once you've listed all these dreams, just wag them out so we have a number and a placeholder for them. So that is a basic framework for the discussion you want to go through when you're making sure you're dreaming big enough about your life. So some final quick tips. I got 3 cooking tips for coming up with this ideal retirement. Number 1, it's really important to separate your ideal retirement into lifestyle, all the individual needs, all the individual wants, and all the individual dreams. You want to separate them and put a WAG number on each of them, a wildly amazing guess on each of them from a financial aspect. Don't blend them all together. And the reason is, we're dreaming big here. You know, we got all these stickies on the whiteboard now of what we really want to happen in this project. Later on, as we go through a prudent process, like in almost every project, you can't have it all. But the key is to get it all out in terms of what you or you and your spouse want from a financial perspective and a qualitative perspective, so we can start to prioritize later on. But if you don't separate them out, if you don't have the individual pieces with a WAG number on them, it's a lot harder to prioritize later on because we don't see them individually. So it's really important that we separate them out. Secondly, don't worry if your plate of pasta isn't as fancy as other people's. Many aren't. It's not about spending or living large. It's not about living large and just finding things to spend money on. This is about creating a life you value. Many times, going through this process, I've found people are perfectly content with a lot less, and they almost feel guilty that they're not thinking big enough, but they're happy. And that's the point. They are satisfied with the life that they're living. More than likely, if you listen to this show, you're probably one of those type of people. You're being prudent about how you manage your finances in your life, and that's one reason, by listening to the show is an example of that, and that's one reason why you're in the position that you're in. My only caution there is you don't worry about having a fancy dish of spaghetti, but do stretch yourself. If you have a hard time thinking in terms of things or things to do, think about how you could use your capital to create experiences with those that you love. Many times when I encounter clients that are like this, and it's a lot actually, they have to understand or see that not creating experiences really just means that they're just going to die with more money. Great problem to have, but is it something they're intentionally wanting to do when they could use that money to create experiences or speak into the life of people they actually care about while they're alive? Something to think about. My last little quick cooking tip is, if you're married, do this together. You are Simon to your Garfunkel. You are Lennon to your McCartney. You are Sonny to your Cher. You are Hall to your Oates, right? They all are much better together than they are separate. So if you're married, you're better together too. So make sure you create this vision of what this life is going to look like or retirement's going to look like together. Now, a lot of times, spouses delegate the financial aspect of life. In my life, I handle all the money. My wife is perfectly capable. She doesn't have any interest, so the delegation of duty falls to me. That's fine. But when this topic comes up of what we're trying to direct our life towards, this topic needs to be discussed together. So to summarize, yes, there is a retirement crisis out there, and that crisis has poisoned how we think about our lives in a lot of different ways. So in the beginning stages of this project management of creating, okay, where do we want to go for the rest of our life? Don't be reasonable. Don't worry about wagging the number right now. There'll be plenty of time for detail later on. Remember, it's not just about the money. You have other areas of your life you need to be intentional about. And then it's about building this plate of pasta and making sure you tally the cost, the estimated cost of all of those so we can negotiate better later on. Now, in later episodes, we'll talk about some of that process of getting down into the granular of, okay, how do we get back to reality now that we got all these stickies on the board to get down to what's is possible and prioritize to go towards the things that we actually care about most.
On your marks, get set.
Hey, welcome to the Smart Sprint segment where we set a 7-day objective to take a baby step towards living the life that we want. Now, this week's step is related to Michael Hyatt's 5 days to your best year ever, because I'm a big proponent of that. In 6 Shot Saturday, I am going to send you a link to his free life score assessment, where it's going to help you grade yourself in all these different areas of your life so you can get an idea of where you might be a little soft or where you might be a little bit strong. If your life were a game, what would your score be? This is a great way to find that out. So I'm going to have a link to that in 6 Shot Saturday. I want you to go ahead and take that. If you want to share the results with me, I'd love to see it. I'll share mine with you. And this will help you learn more about his program. And then I will announce in 6 Shot Saturday when registration is open, because there'll be a discount for a couple days if you're interested in this program. And I'll talk more about the special offer I have on my end to help take his amazing program and customize it to this journey to retirement that we're all taking. So look for that in 6 Shot Saturday. If you're not signed up already, you can text the words 6SHOT, SIXSHOT as one word, to the number 33444, or just go to rogerwhitney.com and put in your name and email. You'll receive 6 Shot Saturday every Saturday morning. Hey, welcome to the Happy Lab, where we noodle on what makes us happy, right? How to live a happier life, the softer side of things. So we just got done with Thanksgiving. Very thankful for you. I want to thank all of you, first of all, for sending me your honest feedback. I want to thank Dick for sending me a thank you note. I want to thank John, and I want to thank Matt and Ken for their very honest individual emails with feedback on what's working with the show and what's not. I read them all, and it's a little hard at times. I always invite constructive criticism, and I got to remember, that's what it is, to make the show better for you. And I want to thank everybody who has taken the listener survey. I'll have another link for that in the 6 Shot Saturday, but I want to thank everybody there because that's really helpful. So for Thanksgiving, we just had Thanksgiving. I hope yours was great. On the Friday after is what? Was it Black Friday where everybody goes shopping? So my wife and her sister and her mom go shopping every day. And traditionally what I do with the kids is I take the kids out for lunch and then we go see a movie. And then we usually go to the Christmas lighting parade, but they changed the day to that. So we got to go out to lunch today and I spent lunch with my son and my daughter and their significant others. And then my son went off because he was tired. He was done with people. He likes his alone time. And so I'm sitting there with 4 ladies figuring out what to do. And they decided that they all wanted to go get pedicures and manicures. I'm like, okay, we'll go do that. And then they started to, well, Dad, what are you going to do? And I'm like, hey, I'll get a manicure. I've never done that. I'll do that. I can hang with that. So I went and got a manicure. And I still have my man card. I made sure I asked my wife and my friends. It was sort of fun. She wanted to give me a back massage, and I wouldn't let her, but my nails look good. My point is, because there's got to be a point, you have to be open to new experiences, even if they're not quite up your alley when you're hanging out with your kids, because they enjoy it. They enjoy making fun of me, and allowing them to make fun of me getting a manicure is well worth the effort. And I think we just need to think about that because it actually ends up being a lot of fun. Well, hey, I want to thank you for joining me on the Retirement Answer Man show. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Look for the 6 Shot Saturday where you can get the life assessment to take and also have a last chance to fill out the reader survey or listener survey so I can work at making a show that you actually enjoy. Until next week, this is Roger Whitney, the Retirement Answer Man.
We appreciate you joining us today for this episode of Retirement Answer Man. Be sure to visit rogerwhitney.com/answers to access the Retirement Answer Library with over 30 checklists to help you make the most of the only life you have. Remember, you have more power than you realize to create an amazing life starting today with Retirement Answer Man. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Have a wonderful day.